Okay, what we're looking at here today is adding and subtracting negative integers. This can be one of the more confusing topics for a lot of people when they're doing negative numbers. If we have a look at the textbook here, it says, by observing patterns in number calculations, we can see the effect of adding and subtracting negative integers. If we have a look at the addition here, everyone knows 2 plus 3 equals 5. And 2 minus 3 equals negative 1. Often when you're looking at negative numbers, a good way to think about it is this first number, if you've got a bank account, that could be looked at as how much is in my bank account. So in this case, there's $2. If I walk into the bank or actually no, if I don't walk into the bank, if I go to the ATM and I'm taking out, that's a minus sign. If I'm taking out $3, I'm going to have negative $1 in my account. Over here, same thing. I've got $2 in my account. There's a plus sign, so that means that I'm walking into the bank and I'm going to go up to the teller. I'm going to give her how much money I have in my pocket, which is $3. When I walk out of there, I'll have $5 in my account. If we come down here a little bit further, and if we have a look at these numbers down here, it gets a little bit more confusing. If we go onto this side, I still have $2 in my bank account, but I walk into the bank like I did in this one, and all of a sudden there's a negative 1 here. Now the answer here is 1. Because there's a negative 1, it means that I'm actually not walking in with any money, or I'm walking into the bank with something that I own in my pocket. Whereas the case here was I was walking in with $3 in my pocket. This time, I'm actually walking in with negative $1. Okay? A good way to think about this is, okay, I've got $2 in my bank account. The plus sign means I'm walking into the bank to see the teller. And the negative 1 could easily be a power bill. Let's say a power bill for minus $1. So you've got $2 in your bank account, you walk in to see the teller, and all of a sudden here you've got a power bill that's going to cost you $1. Obviously, once you pay that bill, you'll only have $1 left. If we have a look at this other side though, because these here, they're all additions, and here, they're all subtractions. 2 minus 0 equals 0. Here, 2 minus negative 1 equals 3. Now I know what you're thinking. How can that be? That doesn't make sense at all. What we're having here is we're having a double negative. We've got a minus sign as our operation, and we've got also a negative number. Okay, I want to give you a simple example, and it's not even a mathematical example, it's an example that, say, you might learn about in English. It's called a double negative. Let's say we're walking down the street tomorrow and we see a girl, and your friend turns to you and says, you know what, she's not unattractive. What does that actually equal? If you say that somebody's not unattractive, it actually means that it equals them being attractive. Okay? So these two negatives actually equal a positive. Okay? Here, let's write it as our sum. 2 minus negative 1 equals a positive 3. So when you see a negative and a negative right next to each other, it actually means we go to a positive. Here in the key ideas, it says adding a negative number is equivalent to subtracting its opposite. Okay, adding a negative number is equivalent to subtracting its opposite. Okay, so here, $2 is in my bank account. We're going into the bank with a bill, that's $3. So we start our bank account at 2, and then we have to move down 3 spaces. Okay, even though that says plus. Subtracting a negative number is equivalent to adding its opposite. So here we have 5, and all of a sudden we've got our 2 negatives. We've got our negative operation and we've got our negative number, which really means we can cross that out. Don't forget, it's a double negative, and it turns it into a positive. Okay? In that case, we can move up the number line from 5 to 7. If we have a look at this one here, this is different. This is also a negative number. Don't forget that the first number in your sum is how much money you have in your bank account. It's your starting point. That doesn't have an effect on the rest of your addition or subtraction. So that's just our starting point. So if you have a look over here on the number line, instead of starting at 5, we're starting at -2. Once again, we see a negative operation and a negative number. So we can immediately put a circle or a square around those two, and we can change the operation to +3. And obviously -2 plus 3, if we're walking into the bank and we've got -$2 in our bank account, but $3 in our pocket, we'll walk out 1, 2, 3, and end up having $1 in our bank account. Let's have a look at some of the questions in this chapter. Here we go. Let's pick one. Let's pick this one. Okay. 6 plus -11. Once again, this is how much money I have in my bank account. This means that I'm walking into the bank, and this here means that, is that money I have in my pocket or is it a bill? Well, the negative tells me that it's a bill. So I have $6 in my bank account. I'm walking into the bank and I need to pay a bill for $11. Obviously, 6 take away 11 is going to equal, or we count back on the number line, it's going to equal -5. So by the time you walk out of your bank, you're going to owe $5 in that bank account. Let's have a look at another one. Let's have a look at this one here, because this one here is a little bit different again. A lot of people would say, well, hang on. In this question, I have 2 negatives, like say this one where it will become a positive. But in this one, something's different. You have a positive operation. So, -7 plus -3. Okay, and a lot of you might be wondering, why am I putting brackets around this negative number? It's so that we don't get confused here. Okay, nothing else. In theory, I could put brackets around that one as well. Doesn't mean anything. Don't get confused by that. So -7 plus -3. Okay, I can just make a simple addition there. 7 plus 3 equals -10. Okay, they're both negative numbers. Just like 7 plus 3 equals 10, -7 plus -3 will equal -10. Okay, let's have a look at these ones in question 5. C, 20 minus -30. Okay, all of a sudden, once again, we have a negative operation and a negative number next to each other. We can put a box around those, you can circle them, you can do whatever you want, and you can make that +30. So 20 plus 30 equals 50. Okay? Once again, let's have a look at this one. Who remembers what we do if we start with a negative number? We've got 3 negative numbers, or 3 negative operations or numbers put together here in a row. -31 minus -19. Well, what effect does this have on our sum here? Nothing. It has no effect on what we're doing here, because that is merely just a starting point. That's where we start from. So, once again, just like this one, I've got a negative operation and a negative number, so we're going to change this into a positive. So -31 plus 19, all right, makes it a little bit easier. Obviously, with our number line, however, if -31 is here, okay, zero's up here somewhere, which way do we go? Do we go this way or do we go that way? Well, it's a positive, so we have to move to the right. So 19 times, okay? Don't forget, really what you're doing here is you're doing 31 minus 19, all right? Okay, but then obviously it needs to be a negative number. Last thing we're going to look at is these ones here. Obviously, there is more than one operation. Don't worry about negatives and positives and all of those sort of things. Think about it like this. 3 plus negative 2 plus 1. You work from left to right. That's why it says it in the question, left to right. We can actually block out that first one, 3 plus negative 2. Because we have done what we've done just earlier, we know that 3 plus negative 2 actually equals 1. So we can cross out those and put a 1 there. And then 1 plus negative 1 is going to equal 0 for us. All right? So whenever you have 3 operations like that, or a 3-stage sum, we can just close off that last one, do the first bit first. So in this case, it's negative 9 minus negative 19. All right? Once again, I'm going to circle that because there's a negative operation and a negative number. I'm going to turn it into a positive. All right, so here we have 19, so we're going to end up with positive 10. Okay, and then we add our last operation, which is plus minus 16. So in this case, 10 will absorb 10 of those, and we'll have a negative 6 left over. All right, and that wraps it up.